as Representative Dean had mentioned earlier, we had just experienced devastating floods for which my district was ground zero in New York City on the floods from Hurricane Ida. And this has been a travesty in my district. We have lost 12 people in these floods. And the connection here is that in almost every person lost to the floods, it was related to our housing crisis. The lack of available housing stock and the fear of eviction has existed even prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic has only made it worse to the point that people are seeking alternatives to the housing stock that are often dangerous. Now, that being said, speaking about those longstanding inequities, many low-income renters struggle to make ends meet even before the pandemic. And with the lapsing of unemployment, the striking of the eviction moratorium, all of these things have placed renters in an even more perilous position. We've discussed about some of the difficulties, and the committee has addressed some of the difficulties in state implementation, but I also want to talk a little bit about the difficulties in getting these funds out with a small segment, rather the segment of landlords who are refusing to participate in emergency rental assistance. Now, Ms. Yentl, is there evidence that lack of tenant participation is a widespread problem for the emergency rental assistance program?
I have not seen any evidence or data to show that there's a widespread problem of tenants not participating. There is
Okay.
clear evidence of tenants not completing applications, which points to inaccessible and overly complicated applications that need to be simplified.
Okay, I see. And would you say that in relation to tenant participation, is lack of landlord participation in the program more of a frequent problem that we're noticing?
We have seen evidence of this, yes. In a survey that we and others did, about 44% of program administrators said that landlords refusing to participate in ERA programs was a challenge. And from some of the more recent conversations, I would say that that number has likely grown.
So that means that when landlords refuse to participate, some emergency rental assistance programs are not required to provide assistance directly to tenants, and they could face eviction or homelessness if their landlord vetoes the application. Is that right?
That is right. Unfortunately, it's optional for program administrators to utilize direct-to-tenant assistance if landlords participate. And we're seeing that only about 28% of all ERA programs are explicitly allowing direct-to-tenant assistance. That means there are many tenants who are having their application closed, are not getting any of the assistance they need because the landlord has refused to participate.
And this is consistent with something I've been seeing, folks. So if you are a tenant and you want to make right on your back rent, and you apply for the emergency rental assistance program, if your landlord has been trying to get you out, they can refuse in the majority of programs to accept your rental assistance and evict you and use that as grounds to evict you. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing some very egregious cases of tenants showing up in eviction court, say with the emergency rental assistance in their hands, and the landlord saying, "I don't want it," and the judge allowing the eviction to move forward.
So it seems as though we have a very urgent issue, and I very much am so thankful to see Chair Waters address these issues. Now, my last question is, what types of enforcement mechanisms should we be exploring to ensure that the tenant protections in this bill are adhered to by landlords?
It's a really important point, and we strongly recommend that the legislation be very clear in identifying a federal agency, the DOJ or the CFPB, and giving them clear authority and responsibility to ensure that the tenant protections in this legislation are followed and adhered to.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Good. I would like to just chime in on this topic because I'm a landlord, so and I can give you some reasons we've seen landlords not want to participate. And in a state like New York, there are conditions imposed by participating, like rent freezes, not able to charge late fees, and extended, protracted moratoriums. So it makes it hard for the landlords to participate with all those conditions.
Thank you. The gentle lady's time has expired.